Hello everyone. I wanted to post my second journey video, and these are my favorite tips for staying on top of things in Teams. The more I use Teams, the more I realized that I needed to keep up, right? There was so much going on. This is a tenant that I use rarely as opposed to my day-to-day tenant, but I wanted to kind of highlight a few of these things. So I have a membership to over 100 different Teams instances, and so I can get pretty crazy trying to keep up. So I wanted to show you this little contextual menu that you find on every message. And I wanted to kind of inspire you by seeing all the different pieces of these kind of messaging extensions that exist on the three dots of every conversation, right? And the one I'm going to focus on first is save this message, which is the one right at the top. But please do investigate the others. Save this message, as you can notice at the top right, it actually creates a bookmark. Now, how do you get back to those bookmarks? You click on your logo, your picture, right? Your picture, and then you click on saved. It's the third item on the list when you click on your picture. And it will show you all the things that you've saved. And in this case, I've only saved one thing. And so you see that bookmark there. Now, I can go to any conversation and continue to make saves. And the method of my madness here is not to have 1,000 saved messages, but what's in my saved applies to today or this week, right? And I actually, over time, as I action those things, I go ahead and I remove the save, right? So now you can see that I have 3 things saved. And in the case where it would be, excuse me working on this, I would come back to these saves at some other time. So maybe I have a meeting, but I want to remember to action these 3 things. Okay, so that's what I love about the saved thing. So now I'm going to go and pretend, let's fast forward to tomorrow, because maybe those are my weekly saved. I go back to my logo and I click on saved, and you notice how it defaults to the top one, which is the most recent save. But if I click on the first one, it'll highlight it in yellow. I don't know if you noticed that because it happens pretty quickly. It takes you to the saved message, highlighting it in this light shade of yellow, and then the yellow kind of fades away, right? But at least it brought your attention to that saved message. So I really love this feature because sometimes I just can't action everything at the same time. And this way I don't have to search. I know that in my saved are my actionables. And I try to get rid of those actionables before Friday so that this save list doesn't get long. And you just click on the bookmark or click on the saved item to get rid of it. So I just got rid of the one with the document in it, and I left the other 2, pretending that I got those done. But that means it might be hard to get back to that document, which brings me to my second tip. The Files tab, the Files app. The Files app is one of my favorite apps for keeping up with files. And you'll notice in my left navigation here, it's the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the 6th app in my left navigation here, which is Files. I pinned it, and it may not be pinned in your world by default, but you can just go into the apps and pin anything you want to keep in this left navigation. It does have a limit to how many icons can be there, but Files is a priority for me, so I do pin it to my left nav. And you can see that I have 3 things here. I have recent, and at the top of the recent is the list of custom solutions file. So because I opened that file, it automatically shows here. And you can see it was opened 17 minutes ago. And the word modified is really probably not true. I'm going to say it's a misunderstood word because actually what it means is that that's how long ago I opened it, right? I don't have to change the file for it to grab it here in recent. And so, but that's 18 minutes ago, I actually opened that file. So it's grabbing it in recent. Now, it's important to know that if I didn't open the file, right? If somebody, even if I uploaded it or somebody else uploaded it, if I didn't upload it, it would not be here in the recent list, okay? Instead, it would show up in one of the two others, depending on where it was. And I don't know how many of you know this, but when you're dealing with file uploads in any Teams instance, right? Any team. So when I say that, I mean like you have a Teams and it's called team name and it has a bunch of channels, right? So those instances of Teams, whenever you upload to them, basically what happens is these files get stored in SharePoint. If you're uploading to a group conversation or a chat, then it's going to your OneDrive, right? So if I click on Microsoft Teams, which is the second kind of files, you'll see that 25 minutes ago, that's when I uploaded the file. So this is when the file got uploaded to Teams. And so at first it grabbed the upload. And then once I opened the file, it lit up in recent. So just keep in mind that the difference between Teams and recent is recent requires you to open it, to view it at least, right? But sometimes I will actually either save the file, like in tip number 1, or I will open it just to make sure it ends up in recent, just because it's easier for me to find. But then again, you know, it's funny. You just click the second thing and you'll find it in Microsoft Teams. But you'll find any file in Microsoft Teams that has been shared with you or uploaded for you or uploaded by you. And, you know, I upload a lot of files, to be honest, and I share a lot of content. So being able to find them in Microsoft Teams or recent is awesome. This enables me to track documents easily, you know, like kind of keep up with where my files are. But also what I love is I have OneDrive right here. So it makes sense because OneDrive is where all of our conversation uploads are going, and SharePoint is where all the Microsoft Teams channels are going. So having access to both SharePoint and OneDrive prevent me from having to go to the app launcher and leave the context of Teams. I don't have to go anywhere like I used to, like maybe a year ago. I lived in that app launcher, just kind of jumping around. But now I basically can find all my SharePoint documents, all my OneDrive documents, and all the recent documents that I've viewed from others directly in the context of Teams. And so I don't have to switch around to get to that file. So I really love the Files tab. It helps me locate the things that really matter to me when I'm dealing with documentation. If you look on the right side of the Microsoft Teams, you'll see the location of the actual file. And this is where you'll start to recognize whether you're in SharePoint or not. I'm going to drop open this menu here so that you can see the options, right? For any Microsoft Teams file, I can edit it in Teams. I can open it in a desktop app. In this case, this is PowerPoint, so you'll see the icon, or I can download, or I can get a link, right? So the icon for the file lets you know what the file type is. So as long as you've got that on your desktop, you can open it there. So I really love that. Now, I'm going to go into the third thing, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the third thing because I'll have you put down in the description if you'd like me to like double click on this. But my third tip as a power user, helping other people keep up, is I create adaptive card automations. And so here at the top of this screen, you see that there is an adaptive card that was created in Power Automate, and it just gives them information about some money that is needed for well insurance in right-of-way acquisition, right? So basically, this is just a notification that something happened on SharePoint. So in SharePoint, there's some lists going on. There might be a Microsoft Forms form that's submitting to that list, but it's outside of Teams. And maybe it's outside of the context of the team that has to action this. And so what I do, let's imagine that this demos channel is the well people's channel. And I just set up a flow that actually posts an adaptive card in their channel so that they don't miss what's happening in SharePoint. So you can do this for anything. Think of any Microsoft Cloud service where things are happening somewhere and the people in Teams have to action it. Now they can always save this little adaptive card the same way we've been doing the other saves from tip number 1. But they might also want to action it right away by clicking on open the item in SharePoint. So I always include a button that will enable them to get to that thing in the product, as long as they're not frontline workers. So if they're frontline workers, maybe they don't have access to that cloud service. So then I don't give them that link. I just give them the information. And this is information that the frontline worker could use even though they don't have access to SharePoint, or even though they don't have access to Dynamics, or even though they don't have access to Project, etc. So this is my third favorite tip, is using Power Automate. If you want to dig into that deeper, just leave notes in the description as kind of how you want to dig into that. But suffice it to say, I have done quite enough videos on adaptive cards and Power Automate that you already can find a lot of content on that topic. Myself and Thomas have done quite a bit. So basically, that's my third. So 3 tips today: conversation save, files, and adaptive cards.